So, my talk is about who God is, okay? Just
Introduce yourself.
Oh yeah. So my name is Victor Taylor, and I've been living in Greenville for just a year now. Now I'm getting ready to move again. But I did my last talk was on science and how Christianity started modern science, and ultimately used the science to basically learn how God made everything. Now, this talk is about the concept of who God is. Tries to separate ourselves from the other theist believers. Now, this is just only laying the foundation on who God is, but to concentrate more specifically on the God that we worship, that's basically another presentation. But first, just want to lay down on the foundation of God and just separate ourselves from the rest of the people who believe in a God. So first, we're going to discuss what we learned about the universe from science, then examine the Catechism and Catholic Church teaching on God. Let me see. First, let me fix something. And then we're going to examine the different views on the concept of God. Now, just like in history, when we look at historical writings, records, or any type of artifacts, we learn about the characteristics of that historical person. So just like how we learn about the universe, we learn about who God is. Okay? So, what do we know about the universe? We know that the universe is not eternal, that it has a beginning. Okay?
Right.
And we saw that from Georges Lemaitre, a Catholic priest who made the Big Bang Theorem, where it started from a basic singularity, where that's more of Richard Hawkins, and then boom, Big Bang, and here comes the universe. And they would also know that this universe is not eternal because it is expanding, it is growing.
Right.
The universe did not create itself. Basically, nothing can create itself from into existence. And how we saw that is the laws of conservation of mass, which states that within an isolated system, the system can create its own matter. And laws of conservation of energy states that within an isolated system, energy is not created or destroyed. So that's basically saying that a system cannot create itself. If within the system, energy and matter is not being created, then how can you expect the system to create its own self? That's why you need an outside source to create it. Like, for instance, a car. A car doesn't create its own car. First, you need the person who invented the car, someone who's not a car, to create a car. And then also the universe is not in an internal loop, meaning that it will die, it will die and then be born again, die and be born again. Okay? Now they're trying to show, science have tried to show that the world is eternal. They came up with the oscillation universe, the multiverse, or bubble universes are popping out of one big universe. But every time they come up with the concept of an eternal universe, they could not get rid of the Big Bang Theory and Stephen Hawking's singularity theorem. And I forgot about there's another theorem, I forgot the whole name. But those theorems basically shows that the universe has a beginning. Even with the oscillation universe, where it has the universe expand, collapse, you still have to go back to when the very first universe began.
Right.
Even when they say that, well, we're not saying that the universe has a beginning, because it looks like it doesn't have a beginning. It just means that the universe started at a certain point in time. But because that time exists,
Right.
that shows that it is not eternal, because time does not exist if you're eternal.
Right. Okay. It was like the first instance of the creation of that looping, what you're talking about.
Yes,
If there was the looping, then there was the first loop that ever happened.
Yes, and you still need an outside source.
Okay.
Now, it's not saying, what science found out, it's not saying that it's the proof for God.
Right.
Because science is not in the business of proving or disproving God. It's just measuring what the universe is.
Right.
But from their findings, we could give from these evidence, we could give reason to believe that an outside source created that universe, and that outside source is God, for what we believe. So, based off the Catechism, paragraph 198, that this is the fundamental meaning of God, the foundational meaning of God. That God is the first and the last, the beginning and end of everything, for creation is the beginning and foundation of all God's work. Okay? That's tonight, that's what we are concentrating on tonight. This foundational meaning of God, the creator, the beginning of everything. So now, the common philosophical definition of God amongst theists is that He's the most perfect being, or she, depending on who you're talking to. Eternal, meaning that meaning that God doesn't have a beginning or an end, just is. Divine, and is a creator or a sustainer of the universe. The reason why I said or, because some believers who believe that the universe is eternal and the God or gods are in the universe, they help organize the cosmos in the universe. Okay? So, the views of God could be split into three categories: pantheism, polytheism, and monotheism. So, pantheism basically says that God, the universe is God. Okay? What we said, so the definition that we saw, the definition that we saw, that God is eternal, divine, and most perfect. That's the universe. That's how they describe the universe. God is the universe, and the universe is God. Okay? But the problem is that we know that the universe has a beginning. So therefore, you lead into that bad question that you hear from Richard Dawkins and a lot of people: who created God? Therefore, God cannot fit pantheism, because they put God within the universe, and we know that the universe is not eternal. Next is polytheism, where they believe in multiple gods. Okay, they too carry a pantheistic view of the universe. That's why it's kind of hard to to separate the pantheism, polytheism, because they do carry that pantheistic view of the universe. The universe is eternal. The gods are within the universe. Now, also, for them, the gods have a physical form, or could take a physical body, and they have a lot of human attributes. And also that the gods are intimately connected to the universe, or to things within the universe, or to anything that's nature. Okay. Even though they may operate independently from them, but they still cannot separate themselves from it. For instance, there's war, therefore there's a god of war. We have a sun, therefore there's a god for that too. Water, therefore there's a god of water. If those things never existed, then those gods would never existed. Even though they still operate independently from those things, they're still so intimately connected to them that they exist only because those things exist.
I got you.
Yes. So, again, there's the problem. God is connected to the universe, connected to things. We could create computers or invent everything. That doesn't mean that our existence depends on their existence. We're still totally separated from what we invented. Michael Dell, if he didn't invent Dell computers, he would still be Michael Dell.
Right.
Yes. Same thing with God. God is totally separated from the universe, from what He created. And also, putting in this human thought, these human attributes into God. Yeah, remember, God is not human. Okay, God is a totally different being. Therefore, He cannot have those human attributes. And also, once again, the eternal universe, and how they put the gods within the universe.
So you're saying with the traits, it's like because people have these traits, the gods have these traits, not the other way around.
Basically, yeah. And if you read about the Greek gods, how basically there's no free will. Whatever they do is because the gods made them do it. Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, the pantheistic view of the universe. Gods are within the universe, and then the universe is eternal, which we know that the universe is not eternal, and if the gods are within the universe, then who created the gods? Now, monotheism, okay, where monotheism, and the monotheism that we're concentrated on mainly are the Abraham religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Okay, because there was other groups that had a monotheistic belief, but those monotheistic beliefs coincide with those pantheistic beliefs. So the monotheism, what do we say about God? He's omniscient, means that He's all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful. Immaterial, meaning that this being doesn't have a body. And the reason why He doesn't have a body because He is eternal. Okay, bodies. See, if you see our body, it's changing. Physical things change. And again, if you're eternal, you do not change at all, because you're just is. And also they transcends time and space, meaning that they exist outside of time and space. That's why God is all knowing, because he exists outside of time. So he could know what will happen in the future, because he exists outside of time. Now, those things, those attributes fit better on the characteristics of God compared to the other two groups of theism. Okay, because God is outside of the universe. He exists outside of the universe. Shows that he's immaterial. He's not changing. Compared to the other ones where they show that God is changing and they put him within the universe. Again, you cannot put the Creator inside of its creation. Yes. Now since we could see that monotheism amongst these three monotheistic beliefs could carry the better concept of who God is, how can we really separate ourselves from these other two? Well, easily the Holy Trinity. Okay, we believe that God is three persons that shares that one divine nature. Okay, and let me go back to talk about the polytheism when I talk about the divine nature. All right. As I mentioned before, that the common definition amongst pantheism, polytheism, and monotheism is that is a perfect being. Well, in polytheism, when you have multiple gods, okay, who's the most perfect among them? Right? Yeah. So can you really call it perfect when it's being split? It's split amongst multiple gods. Yeah. Yeah. So that's and you could also go into the history, and that's another topic. The history of the existence of Jesus, to show the evidence that Jesus did exist on this earth, to show again how we could separate ourselves from the other religions. And when it comes to Judaism and Christianity, it's not our view of God is very similar, but it's the main difference is because we believe that Jesus Christ is God, or is the Son of God, as well as we believe in the Holy Spirit as well. God in three persons. Now, there was the last meeting that we had, the issue of Islam came up, so that, well, Islam is very similar to Christianity. So I do want to elaborate that on some more, okay? Because there's I would say little similarity, but it's a lot of difference between our concept of God to Islam concept of God. Now, the similarity that's confusing people. In the Catechism, paragraph 841, Catholic Church relationship with the Muslims. The plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator, the first place amongst whom are the Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham, and together with us they adore the one merciful God, mankind's judge on the last day. So reason why the Catholic Church point out to the similarity of who God is because the Muslims also profess that same God that from Abraham. Okay?
Right.
That's basically the only similarity there. The only similarity, along with the two other attributes, the omniscience and omnipotence. But when you break down the difference, you realize that it's the God that we believe is very different from the God what Islam believe. Outside the fact that they don't believe in the Trinity, they do profess that Jesus did exist on earth, but they only say that he's a great prophet. In fact, if you read the Quran, you will see that Jesus in the Quran vehemently disagree with the Christians who calls him God. And they also say that, well, they make Mary to be God too, which that's not true. Okay? But the other difference, no divine fatherhood. Not only they say that Jesus is not the Son of God, but it is blasphemy for us to call God Father. So in our belief, once we become part of the body of Christ, we are adopted children to God, and in Romans 8, we're able to call God Abba, Father. Okay, but in Islam, that's very blasphemous if you call God, if you call Allah Father. And that's the reason why it is because Allah is a creator. He is above everything. That means that he's above all. He's above relationships. No one cannot have a relationship with Allah because he is the creator, and no one can get close to him. Okay, the creations is slaves to Allah. Okay, again, kind of is connected to this. We cannot have any type of personal relationship to Allah. Okay, and reason why is because, again, Allah is the creator of everything. That means that we are his servants. Okay, where to the point where, and we don't own, since Allah is the creator of everything, we don't own anything. Therefore, we are slaves to Allah. And not only Allah is the source of good, but he is the source of evil too. Where, and if you notice, where I taught in monotheism, I put omniscient and omnipotence. I did not put omnibenevolent, because that's, for us, that's Judaism, Judeo-Christian belief of God, omnibenevolent, all good. But in Muslim, Allah is also the source of evil, and reason why is because, again, he is the creator of everything. Okay. If evil happens to us, is because our choices that we made to brought upon that evil. But because we are the created and we don't create anything, we don't make evil. We don't come up with the evil. Now Allah will evil by giving us tests, and if we make the bad choice, that's where evil comes. Unlike for Christianity and Judaism, is that God is all good, and evil is a rejection of God,
I got
and evil comes because of the free will that God bestowed on us. So God is not did not create evil because He's all good. That means no evil could come from Him. Evil comes because of free will. Where in Islam, because we can't create anything, the source of evil does come from Allah.
So you're saying, so with that, it was like, in Genesis,
Mm-hmm.
so in Genesis, Eve eats from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right?
Yes.
So you're saying that it was her free will that caused her to know evil, because the serpent tempted her to do something God didn't, that was what God forbade, because she made that choice of free will. She, in essence, well, I guess not like created evil, but she did create evil, but she didn't like start evil like Satan had started before that, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But because they didn't listen to God, that's what creates evil.
Yes, exactly. And if you read the story, like the reason why Adam and Eve ate the fruit, it wasn't the simple fact that they know so to know good and evil. But listen, you have to listen specifically what the serpent said to Eve. Because you will be like God.
Knowing good and evil.
Yes. So once you put yourself on God level, which is the highest pride you can ever have, that's where sin can come in. Because you're saying that I am like God, and basically say that we don't need God because I'm just like you.
Gotcha.
So in summary, discuss what we learned about the universe from science, and examine the catechism of the Catholic Church teaching on God to lay down the foundational meaning of God, and then examine the different views of God from pantheism, polytheism, and then from Islam.
All right.
All right. So these are all these references are basically from Islam, from Muslim websites. Talk about mention what I talk about. There was other things other differences that was shown. I didn't add them in there because what the Quran said looked like very literal. I couldn't find a common interpretation from them, so I decided to leave those out. And also, I didn't add this, but there's a book called The God of Faith and Reason, where basically they talk about the pagan view of God, and they go into the Christian view of God, and they also go into the sacraments as well.